Hello, everyone. Thanks for clicking in. Tonight, I'm going to tell you guys about my experiences, some of them, because I figured if I'm going to have people on telling their eyewitness encounters and things that have happened to them, then I thought it'd be cool and prudent for me to tell some of mine. Maybe that will encourage more people to want to be on the show. I've gotten quite a few emails already, and I've got the first episode up there. So if anybody wants to be on Abnormal Eyewitness Encounters, email me at theabnormaltruth@gmail.com, and you can either write me a long story, short story, however you feel like doing it. It can be about anything paranormal, supernatural. Um, Lots of people see strange things out there and have strange experiences. And um, even if you don't want to be on the show, sometimes it just helps to write it out and tell somebody. And of course, I can have you remain anonymous, so you don't have to give out your identity. You can be as specific or as vague on where you live, all that sorts of stuff, whatever you feel comfortable with. And I've already gotten a bunch of stories. Some people don't want to be on there, they just wanted to tell what happened to them, and that's fine. Because sometimes it does help just to write it all out, type it all out, tell somebody. Um, but it's very admirable for people to tell their stories on shows like this because gives people an idea of what a lot of people are seeing out there. And I think it just helps in all kinds of ways to talk it out with somebody. Anyway, let's get on with it. These are my, I guess you could call them alien experiences. And not sure how long the video will be. Again, these videos are for people like me that like to listen to YouTube channels. And I like it if they're usually about an hour long. And so I can lay down and listen to it and go to sleep, or maybe I can do something else while listening. And so this whole channel isn't for somebody that's looking for short videos. It just isn't. All right, so where should I start? Let's start with since I was 6, I've been looking into supernatural things. I remember my first book fair, I got a UFO book. And I call myself a generalist, and I like to read about anything strange and abnormal, things that aren't supposed to happen. And I've almost always been that way. And I did not have anything strange happen to me in my younger years. A lot of people who claim to be taken by aliens, it's a lifelong thing. Well, that wasn't the case with me. I really don't remember anything happening to me as a child. And so, I'm trying to think where to start because I'm not going to tell the whole thing. Basically, I think it's prudent to begin here. I started dating a girl in New Orleans, and I was in this chat room for 3 or 4 years. It was a voice chat room where you could talk to each other, and I was a moderator in that chat room, and we would talk to people about their UFO sightings and their abductions because it helped a lot of people. There's nowhere to talk to anybody about that really, and if they stumbled on this room, they usually went in there, and if they had any experiences or anything, they would tell us, and we could talk through them and say yes, that's a normal thing that happens to people, And that went on for many years. I remember on the about the end of that, we had theorized and listened to so hundreds of abduction stories and contactee stories and UFO sightings. It kind of got boring because there was nothing left to kind of talk about theorize, and it's a big subject. But we talked for hours. Most of us were in that room for hours, almost every day. And anyway, the gentleman who actually owned that chat room, I started dating his daughter. Now, this family had deep connections with reptilians. And some abductees mostly get taken by grays. Some of them get taken by the reptilians. Usually, you end up seeing all the different kind, but they'll have this one quote unquote race that takes them more than others. Anyway, this whole family lived in New Orleans, and they all had, even if they weren't talking about it, all those family members had a connection with these reptilians. And you could go over their house and sit down in their like LAN room where we had computers hooked up, and just it would feel like something was behind you. Anyway, lots of strange things, and eventually it didn't work out with her after moving to New Orleans after Katrina. And I moved back to a small town called Palestine, Texas. And some time went by, and I got to back up. While I was still talking in the chat room, I had a friend that lived nearby, and he was in the chat room with me. And so, I knew him in real life before we started going to New Orleans. But he came over one day and showed me this little scoop mark, or this little mark he had on his leg. He doesn't remember having, being abducted or anything. He just had this weird mark on his leg, and it was on his left leg and the crease of his knee on the inside. And what it looked like a little punch biopsy. So if you go look up a punch biopsy, it's actually a medical procedure done by humans, and it looks like a little crater. So it'll be this little red mark circle, but if you look at it real closely, there's a little scoop of DNA taken out of it, basically, which is a known human operation. And I remember when he showed me that, I just laughed at him and I said, that must be where they put the implant in. And I don't think he liked that too much or thought that was too cute. But I got what I deserved not too much longer. A few days later, it might have even been a week, not much more than that if it was. Um, I had a real strange encounter. I had, before I went to sleep, I had sleep paralysis. And what would happen to me every time was I'd feel this electrical, like a low level electrical feeling in my head. I would get paralyzed, couldn't move, but then I would pass out and not remember what happened. Well, this particular night, that happened, and I did wake up and I saw three gray aliens standing over me, and the rooms seemed real dark, but you could see their faces a little bit, and they were more maybe insect like than your typical gray. The eyes wrapped around the head a little bit more, and it couldn't really get a good look at them, and all I could see was three heads there. And I guess they noticed that I was awake, and they put me back under. Next thing I remember is it feeling like I was floating downwards, and then I guess I was still passed out. But what was weird is I also remember them laughing at me, which, if you think about it, would gray beings, if they actually are aliens, would they laugh at you? That was kind of weird. But the next day I woke up and I knew something weird had happened the night before, but you can only assume that's a dream or something, you know. I must have had an out of body experience or something, or went astral, because I was into all that kind of stuff, meditation, lucid dreaming. And so, but I don't know, a few hours or whatever after I woke up, my left leg started itching right there by my knee in the inside there. And I looked down and it was the same mark my friend had showed me a few days earlier, a few days earlier. And I was like, wow, you know. And so I tried to get a hold of him as soon as I could and said, hey man, I had like a weird experience last night. And then also I got a mark just like you did. So of course that day he comes over to look at it. And he didn't have. Oh, and you know what he said? That must be where they put the implant in, and I didn't like that either. But I deserved it, right? Anyway, let's fast forward back to when I was dating the owner of that chat room, voice chat room, that had reptilians all over them. Um, she showed me this mark on her calf. And again, I don't know if I really remember. I think it was a left leg. Probably doesn't matter. Um, and this one was an oval shape. It wasn't a scoop mark, but it was like several layers of skin were gone, and it was oval shape, cookie cutter. That's what I've always called it. Looking, it's like somebody took out several layers of skin, and it was carterized. So this thing would have hurt. There's no way this could have been an accidental, thing that happened during the day you just forgot about. I mean, very strange. And it looked like it was carterized and it healed up really quickly. And it's maybe an inch and a half long, little perfect oval, a skinny oval. And so I was like, wow, that is strange, when she showed it to me. Later on, lots of stuff happened, and I'd be here a long time if I told everything. But we eventually break up after me moving to New Orleans, which stuff happened there. But I ended up moving to Houston. And I think maybe 8 months or so went by. Um, I wasn't thinking about aliens much. I stopped going in the chat room. It was getting kind of boring anyway after being in there for 3 or 4 years and probably listening to hundreds of abductees and contactees and UFO sightings. Anyway, I was up kind of late one night around 2 or 3, and I said, "Well, I better go to bed because it's late." And I've got my own apartment. Nothing ever strange had happened there. I'm walking to my bedroom. I go sit down on the bed, and I've got the remote control in my hand, and I'm thinking if I want to watch TV and pass out watching TV, or should I just go straight to bed? And all of a sudden, I start getting this horrible feeling, indescribable fear and dread. And it was so bad. I never felt that way before then, and I've never felt that way after. Well, I can't say that I have. But anyway, um, oh, also earlier that week, I did start having, uh, like when I started falling asleep, I would get that electrical feeling in my head. It's like a buzzing, like a low electric current or something. And then I would pass out. I think that happened like 2 times uh, within a week before this particular night. And so I did have something strange happen. Anyway, um, I just started feeling this bad, dreadful feeling, and I knew something was in my room with me. And but you couldn't see it. I wasn't hearing anything, couldn't see anything, but I got such a feeling of dread and that instead of my fight or flight system kicked in, like I should have ran out the door running. It was so bad, I just kind of passed out on my right side. I was sitting up in bed, so I definitely wasn't asleep yet. I wasn't that tired. It was just time to go to bed. And I just fell over on my right side and I felt that electrical sensation and I passed out. So the next morning I get up knowing something really strange happened last night. I was thinking about, wow, what was in here with me? I remember feeling that feeling of dread. That was a new one on me. And, I remember sitting on the bed for a good 5 minutes just trying to, what the heck was that last night? And eventually you got to get up. You can't do anything about it. So I was going to go take a shower, and I got in the shower. And on my right chest, up there by the collarbone, real high up, kind of way above my right pectoral muscle, there was an oval, and I felt it when I was washing, but it's kind of hard to see because I have to look down. That's how high it was. It was pretty right under my collarbone in the front. And so I couldn't get a real good look at it. I finished my shower. I went to go look in the mirror, and there was an oval shaped cookie cutter. Scoop mark it wasn't that deep, but there were several layers of skin. Looked like it was cauterized. Didn't hurt at all, really. And it looked healthy. You could see the layers of skin were taken out. Maybe it was a little red around the edges where it was kind of healing up, but it looked exactly what exactly my ex-girlfriend had on her calf. And I was like, wow. And at the time, I did not have a cell phone, so I couldn't take a picture. Um, and it's kind of like one of those things. What are you gonna do about it? I stopped talking to those people in the chat room and stuff. So you kind of gotta just go on with life. Um, I had a few more experiences like that, but that one was the one where I knew something was happening to me. It wasn't just a dream. That was the second time I had some kind of physical mark on my body. And so I thought, yeah, that had to be aliens. What else would it be? I've seen these markings on other people that I actually knew that were taken. So that was the only conclusion at the time I could really come up with. And it took a long time to kind of get my head around that. Even though I knew everything about it, when you kind of have personal proof that that's what was going on. Although I didn't see any aliens that night. It's like they knocked me out, did something to me, and put me back in my bed. So that would be what you would call an abductee. A contactee is someone who they actually talk to, like that family. A lot of them are contactees because those beings would actually talk to them, show them stuff, teach them things, you know. And so I know a lot of this so-called alien abduction lore. What's strange about these abductions is that a lot of people say that the aliens tell them the same kind of stuff. And I might get into that. That's kind of lengthy, but another abductee or another contactee can kind of tell. There's certain ways these things look. If you're a contactee, there's certain things they'll tell you or get you to do, certain little things about how the tables are and operations they might do to you. And so, anyway, many years went by, and every once in a while, I would have something strange happen to me, but no more marks or anything on my body. And I guess I could kind of sum it up with around, no, it was 2017, so not that long ago, January 2017. Uh, you know, Nothing weird has happened to me in several years, almost a decade. But I'm still studying things. I'm studying ancient history, what all these megaliths are, all these conspiracies and everything. And eventually I started reading about Luciferians being in government and the monuments they put up in major cities, going down that huge um rabbit hole, right? And all this time I had been looking into the Bible and whether or not, if it was real, if it had any validity. Because that's something you got to look into for yourself. Because a lot of things you think you know about the Bible or you'll hear on YouTube or anywhere are false. It's amazing how much false information there is about the Bible and Jesus. Anyway, at some point, and this was really after several years, it was kind of a slow thing. I actually asked Jesus to come in to my life, and a few days later, I was looking into like the McMartin case and stuff like that, and it just hit me, and all these things that I'd always been studying my whole life all of a sudden made sense through a biblical lens because I was also studying the Bible and like trying I was researching the Bible like I did all those other subjects. I started listening to people that could quote scriptures and um talking about the Nephilim and fallen angels and all this stuff finally clicked, and it was just a few days after I asked Jesus, said, if you're real, come into my life. I want to know. Because deep down, that's what I've always just wanted to do. I want to know what's really going on here. And anyway, all my research for decades and decades and decades finally came to this conclusion that the Bible was real, Jesus was real, and that's what's really going on all around us. Satan is controlling this world, says it in the Bible. That's why everything is as it is. Uh, he's it's a big network. You can see it in the movies. You can see symbolism everywhere in music, the lyrics, TV shows. They're constantly mocking God. I could go on and go on and on. All these celebrities that people idolize. A lot of people don't know they're idolizing humans that have sold out. And it just hit me, wow. And it's undescribable, really. Um, Jesus just hit me and was in me, and I I was grateful that he answered me, and like I said, you can't really describe it, but I also felt this. I was like, oh no, I was lost all these years, and I finally knew what people we're talking about. Because many times throughout my life, people would tell me about Jesus, and I'd be like, I've never felt that. It's just something that, I remember in the 80s and 90s laughing at people that would say that Satan's controlling the world. To me, it's probably not happening, is what I thought back then. But anyway, a lot of people don't know. Most people experience this right after you get saved. You go through what you could call a trial by fire, and that's when the demons know that you're being saved, and they want to tempt you, and they want to throw everything at you to get you to turn away from God. And you get these like evil thoughts in your head that's not you, like you would never think something like that. And I instantly knew what that was and rebuked the demons firing fiery darts at me. And so, um, a few days after being saved, I was laying down and got that feeling of dread again. And I had not felt that since that other night I was telling you about. That sense of dread, and that's kind of how you would know they were coming for you. They're close. They emit this just awful, dreadful feeling. And so it's immediately I'm on fire for Jesus at the time, and I rebuked him in the name of Jesus. And I'm coming from a place where this is not my own power. Um, Jesus is in me, so in the authority of Jesus, I just rebuked them with all my might, like with positive Jesus, knowing Jesus would defend me, and it instantly stopped. And I tried all kinds of stuff to get this to stop happening to me. These nighttime attacks, I've had several stuff happen to me, and it instantly went away. I mean, I felt that way for 3 or 4 seconds, started rebuking, and it stopped right then and there. So if you're really having problems with these beings messing with you, that right there tells me they're not aliens, they're demons, or demonic, or fallen angels. Because a real alien coming from another planet, they wouldn't care about Jesus if he's not real. But this actually stopped him after nothing else would. So, believe it or not, guys, that's the way to get rid of these beings if you don't want them messing around, and you shouldn't want them in your life. It's most people describe a not so pleasant experience. Um, and so I just wanted everybody to know that Jesus is the only way to get protected from these things, and he's the only way, period. And I know if you're not a Christian, or if you haven't been saved yet, you won't be able to accept it. But I think as long as you hear it, and I at least implant that seed in you, if you get really desperate, you might get to the point where you would look into that. Because I'm telling you, it worked for me. There's some groups that actually talk about how Christ gets rid of the aliens, and how UFO organizations like MUFON, uh, they leave all those cases out, which is for their own reasons or for whatever reasons. I think he said he had 200 or 300 cases because he was in MUFON, and they deliberately kept that information from people, and that's important. That's the thing that worked. They got rid of these things, and they were not telling people. And so I wish I remembered the name of the group. If I can, I'll research that and maybe put some pictures up. Can't promise anything, but I'll try to do that so you can go look up their website because this has been several years since I knew about them. But they're right. And I think it's a horrible thing that MUFON left out those cases on purpose. It's shockingly horrible that they would do that. I guess it didn't serve their agenda, and so they happened to leave those cases out where people rebuked aliens and got them to stop attacking them. And so, anyway, guys, that's part of my alien story. I figured out what they were. They're demonic entities, and I think a lot of these, not all of them, but a lot of these strange things you see in the sky, especially like the flying humanoids and the morphing UFOs, I think those are fallen angels. Angels can shapeshift. They can look like a human and you couldn't even tell, but they can also shapeshift into different things. So some of these stranger cryptids could actually be fallen angels. A third of the angels fell was Satan. And that's a lot of angels because two-thirds of them stayed with the Lord. But if a third of the angels are down here and only some of the worst ones are locked up, um, you got a lot of fallen angels out there, and maybe some of them, Satan got changed into a serpent-looking being. There were seraphim angels that had a serpent look to them, so I'm pretty sure that's what the reptilians are, and they're masquerading as aliens. I'm not sure what the grays are. They could be a created being by these fallen angels. They have amazing knowledge. All the angels were here when the earth was formed, and so they know a lot of secrets. They taught mankind, the fallen ones, they taught mankind lots of things that were bad, such as warfare and makeup and just things we weren't really supposed to know that we may have figured out later, but that gave us a jump on having weapons and killing each other. It's pretty horrible. And so that's my take. That's what I finally figured out. Took me forever to actually find out what these beings were. And I can't prove it to anybody else, but I proved it to myself by being able to rebuke these things quickly. And that's how I know these things are demonic. I'm almost 90% sure the fallen angels are these aliens. And so I think the taller grays are fallen angels. There's certain kinds of angels when they fell, they look like that. Some of them could look like Goat Man, or that may be just a shape that they want to take on. And so I just wanted to share this. This is something that happened to me. This is my reality. This is what I have learned, and I hope somebody gains something by this. Um, it's and it actually feels good to get it off my chest. So, and I found I was thinking I should tell some of my own strange encounters if I'm going to ask other people to speak about theirs on my channel. I wanted to tell you guys a little bit about what happened to me because I found that most people that are either researchers or have a channel, a lot of them don't want to tell their personal stories. Um, but yeah, what could be wilder than being taken by aliens? You know what I mean? So, I hope you guys know I'm a person you can trust with your stories and to keep your name anonymous. And I hope you guys trust me with your stories out there. And again, if you would like to tell me a story or be on the show, Abnormal Eyewitness Encounters, you can email me at theabnormaltruth@gmail.com. And anyway, you guys have sent me some already, and I'm looking forward to hearing your stories. And I will see you guys next time.